Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crypto Economy Podcast. I am very excited to be back. I know we've been out for about 6 months now, and it is now the heat of the bull market. Bitcoin was not $100,000 last time we talked, so hopefully you guys are all doing well. You're happy, you didn't get burned or rugged or screwed too bad in the last few months, and you're still riding that Bitcoin. But I'm very excited to have some fellow builders who are building directly on Bitcoin to tell you a little bit more about ordinals and inscriptions and all the things that are happening on Bitcoin itself now that all eyes are on Bitcoin. So, very excited to introduce the co founders of Yuzo.xyz. Chris, would you mind telling us just a little bit about yourself and why you started the project?
Yeah, of course. So, hi, I'm Chris and Mark. Thank you so much for having us being here. Like me and Lucas, we founded Yuzo.xyz. You can actually go to your website. So it's a no-code platform that allows builders to build their own ordinals within 5 minutes without coding experience. So also allows customizations and interactive elements, but we'll get more into that. Let's let Lucas introduce himself.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Lucas. I'm very into the ordinal and rune space. Actually, I got into this space very intensely when the halving occurred, and that's when I realized if there was going to be any fungible, non-fungible assets that were to last, then it would be on Bitcoin. And the problem that we identified was that launching an ordinal collection on Bitcoin was actually very technical and also time intensive and can be very expensive. And these creators actually face weeks of development and they actually have to spend thousands of dollars up front just to bring a collection to market. And we wanted to democratize access to these no code tooling that allows creators alike to be able to create not just ordinals and not just something for people to keep, but experiences that we can that are lasting forever.
There we go. I love that. That's awesome. And I think you guys picked a good time to do it. It's definitely not cheap. I was playing around with ordinals back like 12 months ago. I like minted a few like BRC20s and I was there when Runes first launched, trying to launch a Runes token on day one, trying to fight over the fees and deal with that mess. So I think democratizing these tools is definitely the path forward. And I think really there's just not a lot of building going on because there's not a lot of infrastructure built out. I've been doing some work on the stacks like layer 2 ecosystem, and they have just so much more infrastructure built out. They make it so easy for anyone to come in and build whatever they want, whether it's NFTs, tokens. They even have, basically like build your own decentralized liquidity pools where it's all open source and you just push a button and you own the pool. And so there's just so much of that I feel like missing on the sort of layer one, and I feel like a lot of like good builders have, kind of ventured out as a result. So I guess I'm wondering, what brought you guys to layer one ordinals, that ecosystem? Have you guys been involved in Bitcoin for a while? Is it just something new that caught your eye that you realized was going to be important going forward? What was your kind of like journey to deciding to build directly on Bitcoin?
Yeah, of course. So for my personal experience, I kind of messed around in the different blockchains for a while now. The first time I heard about blockchain is actually back in 2012. I was like maybe I don't know 9 years old at the time, and I was reading this Scientific American article at third grade, which doesn't make sense, but I read this article about Bitcoin. It's like you can mine Bitcoin, you can just run an application and generate money. I was like, that's like a video game. That's so cool. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't ended up mining because all the technical difficulties. Right, you need to buy a GPU or even an ASIC. You need to set up all the um, complicated wallet address and hashing algorithms. And after that, I tried to develop some applications on EVM compatible chains, like using Solidity integrated with MetaMask and stuff. But eventually, I realized there's so many L2s and so many variations out there. Of course, there's a lot of possibilities, and the chains are getting faster and cheaper. But at the same time, the authentic, the original holder value is always on Bitcoin. can create as many O2s as you want, but the legacy chain, Bitcoin, it's only one throughout the entire history. That's what brings me back to Bitcoin.
That's awesome. Yep, and I think that's what always brings me back. It's the most decentralized, in my opinion, the most secure. It's, foundational, and so there's by far the deepest liquidity and the most people would like to utilize it. There just aren't a lot of tools available, and I thought when I first discovered ordinals, I was super excited by it. I thought that like it would change everything. I was so excited by the fact that like no one can stop you from just printing something on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's something that everyone has access to. And really, it's just a matter of the tooling. But I think in the
Yeah,
early days, the problem was it just attracted so many sketchy people to start building on it. And they built
exactly.
crap and they rugged everyone, they screwed everyone. And I tried to get podcasts going with all the people who were supposedly building real stuff at the time. They all rugged. None of them would come on the show their face. And so I think a lot of people got
How
frustrated by
many
that.
projects are we talking about? Like, supposed to come to podcast?
I mean, like 3 to 5. I like invited all these guys who, claimed they were building like liquidity pools on chain or claimed that, they were doing what sounded like cool stuff, but it was clearly all BS and they were just making it up
Yeah.
and just, rugging people essentially.
From another perspective, I would say a lot of these projects, they spend a lot of time on like road mapping and building their own protocol, but at the same time, like when they actually ship a product, they realize it's too difficult for people to use or like the entire roadmap is taking too long, so they just abandon the project in the middle, right? So I feel like a lot of these projects, usability, the user experience is very important because it doesn't matter how advanced the technology is. If normal people, I mean, for regular users, I'm not talking about like your grandma who probably doesn't know how to use a smartphone, but I
Oh, my
mean,
grandma's been buying Bitcoin for a while. She's the exception.
that's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, talking about like average, for example, average like 20 to 40 years old, very familiar with the new tech. At least we need to have this group of people know how to interact with these applications really seamlessly without knowing the technical details. Because although we all are familiar with technology, not every of us is a comp sci major, right? But when we develop stuff, like as a developer myself, I think of stuff like in a CS way. Like I was like, okay, if you can read code, if you know JavaScript, this should be easy for you.
Yeah.
Thing is, normal people wouldn't know JavaScript by natural, right? So yeah, within a few clicks, how can you onboard a collection? Within a few clicks, how can you generate your art and able to express yourself freely on ordinals? I think that's also a layer of like freedom to speech, because if it requires a certain technical barrier or certain background to freely express yourself on Bitcoin, then it's not actually decentralized, it's not actually democratized. So yeah, again, democratize that tooling perspective. I think it's essential to propel this ecosystem forward.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. I think that's everything. And there's a reason why, like, no one started day trading until Robinhood came out and they made it super
Exactly.
simple and super easy and friendly, and you felt good, and your dopamine got hit when it turned green at the end of the day and shot up. And that's such a huge part of the equation that, like, Web2 companies definitely understand, but for some reason, crypto companies just have such a hard time putting a nice, friendly front end on it and making it accessible
Yeah.
to users. I've seen some change, definitely not in ordinals and runes. Runes and ordinals is just I hate being anywhere near the ecosystem because it's just so unfriendly, so ugly, just depressing to use. Honestly, when I was sitting there trading BRC20s, I just hated sitting on Unisat. I was like, this is just the ugliest
Mm.
website, most boring UI,
Yeah, it's
and so I
highly
think
experimental as well, yeah. Because I still remember people complaining about like cash inscriptions generated by BRC20, right? Every transaction you're creating a trash inscription that doesn't get relevant after that transaction. Like ordinals, you can refer back to okay, this is an RP, this is whatever, but like BRC20 transactions, yeah, it's not user friendly, it's not blockchain friendly. So definitely a lot of work to do to figure out the right protocol that is a balance between usability and the actual like technology that is able to maintain the health of an ecosystem.
Absolutely. Yep. So I guess how would you describe the different like sort of layer one-ish protocols that are out there? You've got, your ordinals, you've got runes now. I think what they had opcat and stuff like that. I haven't even been following opcat or any of that since. But like how would you describe what's come out in the recent months and why you chose to build where you're building now?
So for layer ones, more like uh multiple meta protocols that are competing with each other. Right? For example, ordinals is not technically like a official Bitcoin improvement. It's not. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but um, I believe they have a BIP, but it doesn't get approved because it's not technically a change to be made on the Bitcoin core, but instead just a consensus that a lot of people are willing to adopt. So sometimes the game is just whoever is the first to reach that consensus. So all comes down to like the user base of a certain protocol. Of course, there are some protocols that are certainly more efficient than each other, but again, there's a mix between efficiency and usability, and it all depends on which one has the most supporters. And gradually, like people will pivot into that meta protocol. For Upcat, it is unsure when the actual upgrade will come to Bitcoin. There might be some new protocols that are coming out from Upcat, but it all depends on the market, like the timing, right? So whether the bull market still exists when Upcat comes out, or when it comes out, uh, doesn't have another competitor that is uh, e- easier to use, or even like a better protocol that come out at that time. And it's hard to tell, but I'm just here to try to build a tool that is universal to all the protocols. Like even if there are new protocols that come up, we can use the similar strategies and modify some of the code and like the encoding the formats to ensure the same methodology still work in a new meta protocol.
I think yeah, because I think that's the hardest part when you're building and you don't know which of them is really going to win in
Yeah,
the long term, and one gets a bunch of hype and then it dies down, and it's tough to be just running
exactly.
around. But I think making it so that it can be compatible with everything.
Yeah, in general, just stick with Bitcoin, like Bitcoin layer one. Like, yeah, there's I don't know. I feel like Bitcoin layer one has less risk to be wrong, right?
Yep, I agree. I think that's where I'd want to be. And I think I'd like some layer twos. I think like Stacks is good because they're kind of like first in. They
Cool.
seem to be the cleanest
That
experience.
stack
I
is
think
pretty good.
yeah. And I feel like it was just like, when Runes was really minting and fees were going to like $100 per Bitcoin transaction, I was like, this is not sustainable. People are going to stop using Bitcoin if you guys are screwing up the pricing this badly.
Like
So,
people pivot away from BRC.
yeah, exactly. And so I guess like how can you, using your tools and in other ways, I guess, like ensure that fees remain, decently priced and that it doesn't get to the point where you're paying more than you would on Ethereum or something else?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, forgive me if it's getting like highly technical.
Go for it.
Yeah. um, But first of all, like within the ordinals theory, you have this recursion endpoint, which means the things that already exist in blockchain, you don't need to inscribe it again. You can just reference it from the previous inscription. So let's say I want to make 100 copy of a certain image. These images all look the same, like a number in the bottom right corner that says 1 to 100. Want to create a collection like this, then for the image part, you can reference back to the recursive endpoint to point to the same image. So instead of inscribe it 100 times, only need to do one time, and only need to inscribe the things that aren't recursive yet. Now with that, I was thinking like when we started Yuzo, we were thinking that, okay, so the recursive endpoint can be used on images. Why can it be used on application? Let's say we have certain submodules to build a website. Let's say you want to create a website. There's a navigation bar, there's a title, there's like a about us section. So let's say we want to build a website with those three components. Now we can inscribe the navigation bar as one inscription, about this section as one inscription, and like a title section with another inscription. And we have a inscription that encapsulates these all together to become a website. But next time I want to create another website with the same title but different navigation bar, I can still like reference back to the same like title module. And with that, people without coding experience, they can just choose, okay, I want this navigation bar style A, this title style B, and about a second type C. And for the images, I can also use my assets in my wallet, import them into this website to make actual application. So many use cases that this can be done. Of course, it will be expensive with like larger content and media. So what we can do is also to provide endpoints like APIs that allows these inscriptions to communicate with like external applications. And we can have the vital parts, like the most important parts of an application or digital artifact directly on Bitcoin. But the other parts, if it's just a script to make it run, then can be on the sidechain. For example, if we are inscribing a book, and as the actual product, I want the book to be having like flippable pages and animations and maybe very cool background styles, gradient, whatever. Okay, the essence of this book is text message, right? So I can inscribe the text message directly on chain, on Bitcoin, and in the metadata, I can include information such as, okay, what is the style of this book going to be like? And I want to have flippable pages, I want to have gradients, all these specifications that are written in the metadata. Then we can use some off-chain or like a sidechain application that parses metadata to make it become something actually viewable. The thing is, even if the sidechain data or the off-chain data gets lost, we can still use the metadata that is directly on Bitcoin to reconstruct the user experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. And I feel like it's probably only a matter of time till some AI gets loose out of the box and exports all its weights on chain and references them and somewhere no one can delete them or something like that. But I think it's really powerful for just putting something up that you don't want tampered with that's going to be there that you can reference in any kind of way going forward. So do you imagine it's practical enough for people to actually build out like unstoppable domain type websites where, it's securely on chain? Or what do you imagine the coolest use cases will be and also the most common use cases?
So for the cool use cases, it can be really crazy. I use this analogy a lot, but if you have gone to r/place, which is a Reddit board, the subreddit that allows you to paint a blank canvas. So it's like a thousand times a thousand or something like that. It's a large grid, and for each pixel, you are able to paint it as a user. Every user have the right to paint one pixel in every 5 minutes. And with that, you cannot complete a painting just by yourself. You need the entire community to come and paint all these different pixels. That becomes a community picture. With that, it's similar to the re-inscription aspect of ordinals. First of all, like each of these subsections is like a community with a certain inscription space. So for inscription space, I mean, there's a certain limit to the satoshis that is in the market. So once you hold a certain amount of Bitcoin, you're essentially holding one of these spaces that are able to be inscribed. Sorry, I lost what's your original question.
Just the coolest use cases and the most common.
Yeah, so to combine those ideas, if you make each of the Satoshi, think of it as a pixel, or think of it as a land in like a Decentraland or something. Or if you see those like mempool diagrams, these squares, you can think of it as a land that is in the like a Bitcoin metaverse, right? So if we think about Bitcoin, each Satoshi is a land in the metaverse, then the inscription is the buildings, the content, and maybe a vehicles, furnitures, the people that are living on this land. So without having a third-party plugin, you can actually build a metaverse that can be indexed directly by Ordinal Explorer on Bitcoin. Yeah, that's a crazy
So I was hoping
thing.
my bitmaps would be doing by now, but they're not doing
Yeah.
too much.
It's similar to that. For common use cases, I would say, so for me, like personally, a use case that I will use more common is to use Bitcoin as like an internet archive of things that I believe is important. Right? So for example, if it's like it's my like 20th birthday, or maybe if it's like your child's first anniversary or something like that, then it's a very precious memory that you want to preserve forever. So you put it on chain to make it like significant. You can build a photo book that is on ordinals. You can mint your decentralized ID on ordinals, because as I mentioned, if you bring in these customizable aspects in ordinals, you can build your own character, build your own apps, and these applications and characters can present your online portfolio, or like your characteristics of how you behave, how you think, how your ideologies are. And imagine you go to like a Bitcoin event like Consensus or East Denver, and just go in and you show them like a ordinals address. When they go into that address, they can see your decentralized portfolio, like your personal website, but with all the inscriptions and all these like crazy applications that gives people an image of who you are.
That'd be
Yeah, that's a
awesome.
more
Yeah, got
decentralized
to get my
way.
podcast up there. We'll make it.
Yeah, exactly. You can also inscribe audio onto ordinals. For an identity aspect, because for Web3, a lot of people want to get anonymous, right? I have faced another issue in the past where people were complaining about Web3 recruiting. How do you know this guy is legit? How do you know that portfolio is real? Or how do they know that they're going to be like law abiding? Employers need to pay, but the employees doesn't know if the employer is going to pay, and the employers they won't know if the employees is going to deliver once they receive the money. So with this kind of decentralized identity, you can build some sort of reputation system that allows people to identify the legitimacy of individuals without having to tie them into real life identities. So let's say I want to deliver something for a company, but I don't have a work authorization. But I'm really talented and I'm totally like law abiding. It's just that I'm not qualifying some like Web2 restrictions. In that case, we can use a Web3 identity to get a workaround to make sure the workforce is distributed really efficiently.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, eventually I could see it becoming just like a crypto credit score. That's where your
Yeah,
your FICO is. And they're
yeah,
keeping
but
track
again,
of
it's
all
like
your on-chain activity.
it's a creator's economy that is surrounded around like each individual creators. It's not like a big companies with YouTube or Facebook. They're controlling all the shares. Each individual creators, they build out this economy more peer-to-peer and like a more smaller community, but tied together, that kind of basis.
Yep, yep. I think that is the future. These large companies, just the amount of work one guy can do now, it's insane. And it's gonna be, I think it's just gonna trend to zero. Like these like decentralized liquidity pool products that I'm seeing, like you can set your own fees, but that means that there's just going to be a race to the bottom with fees, I think, and so you're going to get lower and lower yields, but then you'll have one guy spinning up a liquidity pool, whereas you used to have these exchanges on stacks that got funded by tens of millions of dollars, and now some guy can just spin it up, in a day, and the fees are just not going
Yeah,
to be
like
competitive.
Uniswap, E3. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So,
Everyone can be a banker. Everyone can be an entrepreneur.
yep, exactly. And you just don't need all the overhead that used to go along with it, that just slowed everything down, made it a worse process, more expensive, less profitable to be a part of. And that's super exciting to me.
Yeah, and the big question to enable this kind of economy is how do we make it cheap? How do we make it easy? And how do we maintain the quality although it's cheap and easy?
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah. And I
So
think
yeah, so ease of use, a better UI, and cheap by, for example, using recursion or just any improvement to the foundational protocol. And to ensure the quality, just add the governance aspect to whatever infrastructure you're building. And with that, it's more of a complete triangle that ensures the foundation of this kind of.
absolutely. Yep. So I guess as you guys are building this out, like what is your sort of, plan on how to scale it, I guess, in like a profitable way? Are you guys taking fees? Are you planning on raising money for it? Are you guys just hoping to just, you know, do it yourselves, stay away from the VCs and just build out a community? Like how does that influence how you guys are actually building this right now?
So we're actually doing it in a quite a mixed way. So we have like B2B and B2C sides. So how it works is that for each of the users that come to our platform to mint, they are our B2C client, right? Each of them, they just experience this new kind of inscription workflow and be able to customize their own ordinals in a very short period of time. So for that, we just charge like 1 to 3% fee, depends on what collection you're trying to mint. And for the creators, we do charge a flat onboarding fee. But yeah, there's two sides of our revenue model, and we do plan to launch a token really shortly, be more likely to be on runes.
So why runes when you decided? Is it just that's where the activity is, the money is, it's easier to trade, there's more
We want to
infrastructure?
keep everything Bitcoin.
But I guess you could do
Definitely
like a
not easier.
BRC20. Yeah.
Probably
No, but
not
also as
easier.
well, we found that because they're made by both by Casey, but you can actually etch the rune to the Foundry parent inscription, so it's all connected in one ecosystem.
Gotcha, that makes sense. So when you are thinking about launching a token on runes, like what does that look like for you guys? Are you trying to figure out where the best place to list it is? Are you trying to figure out how it's utilized on the platform? Like what's been your experience? I guess maybe you guys are early, you haven't, done too much on it, but what are the considerations that you might have to have launching it there as opposed to launching it on ETH and what everyone else is used to?
So yeah, again for runes, it's directly on Bitcoin layer one. Although it's a more of a friction to interact with it. But I actually have jotted down some like flowcharts that enables easier rune swap. I'm still working at it. It's more of a research and development phase for that. But yeah, I have figured out some ways that potentially can help rune swap to be easier, and in that way we can build like like EVM-like interface that helps people to trade runes. So it can be as easy as transferring Bitcoin or something like that. And for the tokenomics, we plan to just allocate these to like either like, of course, VCs or like smaller investors that are just sharing the vision. And with these tokens, there are certain benefits like better tiers when you're listing your collections or benefits when you're trading on our platform. And of course, these runes can get special access to some of the airdrops and what we call feature drops because you can actually upgrade your ordinals. Like with reinscription, you can have this ordinals V1, V2, V3. Start with a static PFP, but you can upgrade it later to become an animation, become a game, stuff like that. So it's not airdrop or like a feature drop, but with each feature drop, your collection potentially gets more value as the devs are adding more things into the same collection. Doesn't dilute to new collections and other communities.
Nice. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So what has been, I guess, your experience meeting like other founders in the ecosystem in the runes and sort of like layer one space? Are there like competitors to what you're doing that you guys have to like keep an eye on? And how has been sort of the reception of like other communities that are building? Has it been easy to get in touch with them, easy to find partners, or just what's the experience like, being deep in the weeds building on layer one?
I feel like for Bitcoin ecosystem, everyone is trying to become that first in a certain area. So a lot of things might be hidden under the surface. Like you don't know them exist, but once they pop off, and you realize, okay, they've been doing this for a while now. Yeah. So
Is there anything that you see other
yeah.
people building that you're like, dang, I wish we had thought of that, or something that's really cool that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, actually, we have compared to some of the similar protocols that we're building. I'm not going to drop the names, but but yeah, there are some of them that are doing the recursive mints, and some of them. I'm not sure about open mints because I will say we are one of the first to build that open mint mechanism with customized ordinals. But yeah, to launch applications, there are certainly agencies that can help you do that. Just not like a ease of access platform for people that doesn't know how to code. Of course, it's going to be a challenging task because trying to balance customizability and ease of use, there are things we still need to figure out. I will definitely say our product is unique by combining all these different perspectives and making it into a workflow that you can see what's going on from the beginning to the end. As time goes by, it can ship really fast, like all kinds of content. Right now, we are the ones that are building the template that help people on board. But in the long run, we'll have more creators and devs that are passionate about this. And even if they are not affiliated with us, they can provide their own templates, just like the no package manager, like npm for JavaScript, where anyone can create a library and everyone can process like reference this library for their own use. It's kind of like a system where the creators, like more knowledgeable creators, they can create all these different templates for people that have no experience to use. But there's also sort of transaction where one's creating these templates get some sort of royalty or return from it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know in the Stacks ecosystem, a lot of people are trying to merge like AI agents with,
Yeah.
quickly minting and developing things. And for people who don't know what they're doing, having a tool that allows you to just say, mint this collection, I want 10K of them, here's what I'm willing to pay, this, and this. Have you thought about compatibility or doing stuff like that? Or do you think that's still just adding a layer of complexity that people are still not that comfortable with?
We have thought about it. It will be overly complex for the current stage. It might be doable. In order to create like highly complex applications that directly on chain, as far as I know, like even the AI agents. I mean, I use AI to code all the time, but um, it only makes sense to people that knows how to code. For people who know how to code, it drastically improves the productivity. For people that doesn't know how to code, even if an AI agent spits out the code, they don't know how to integrate it, how to run it, how to deploy it. Still a little bit of friction there.
Yeah, I think that's what I found too, honestly. It seems like most people are not really using them. They'll do it for research. I think it's useful if it's synced with all the right APIs and getting on-chain data and can tell you like information for research purposes. I think that is really helpful because no one wants to like read the chain themselves and do all of that work. And so it's nice to like summarize that for people who aren't used to it. But as far as like actual development, I think it's still a little ways off, but definitely worth keeping an eye on. So I guess aside from that, I mean, if you could find, creators who are building things right now who are listening to this show, what would be your sort of pitch to them to come and like build on Bitcoin Layer 1 as opposed to going to ETH or Solana or other chains right now?
Yeah, so this might sound kind of cringe, but yeah, I like to say, why do you need like EVM if you can run EVM applications directly on Bitcoin? Why do you need IPFS if you can store content directly on Bitcoin? I mean, there's a cost factor to it, but you can always try to find a way to keep the most vital parts on Bitcoin to have some sort of integrity, or like just have like a marker that points to the project that you're building, because it's on Bitcoin, so people think you're more legit, right? So it's like you don't have to build your project 100% on Bitcoin if cost is the issue. There's always a way to base a project on Bitcoin, like starting from Bitcoin and branch out to other ecosystems, but still having Bitcoin as the root. So when a certain chain loses value or collapse, the root is still in Bitcoin. You don't get as like affected as much. And with recursive and like the Satoshi space, I like to think about it as the natural metaverse space that is on Bitcoin layer one, starting from day one of Bitcoin. Because you can reinscribe it, you can attach any information to it, and every single Satoshi, every UTXO is actually traceable. So it's a natural metaverse space that allows builder to create a lot of possibilities. Yeah, feel free to try that on Bitcoin, because why not?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think right now it's just early. People don't know it exists at all, and the infrastructure is not quite there, and a lot of people are still, diddle-dallying with ETH and Solana, and it hasn't been super obvious to people that it's all coming home to Bitcoin eventually. But when it is, everyone's going to be desperate to get the stuff I think that was early on chain that, was first minting. And, as far as NFTs go, like I want stuff that's on Bitcoin early, and I think there are a lot of projects that have done a good job of that.
Yeah,
And I think it really is just a matter of like getting a few really good projects to do it that everyone takes notice of. And I think like the Pizza Ninjas has done a really good job, frankly. I think their latest like Pizza Pets airdrop went really well. They seem to have a system in place that gamifies it and kind of gets people more involved. I was wondering like what you think about that. Is that kind of like how you imagine things, going as we go forward, and is that like the type of project that you hope comes to you guys at some point?
so I think I'll let Lucas answer this question because he does a lot of ordinals trading.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, I love the pizza pets. I find the concept very cool. Shout out Trevor. He actually came to our Bitcoin Startup Labs as a
yeah,
speaker. And so yeah,
Nice.
shout out Albert too. He taught us a lot. And actually from listening to one of the spaces that Trevor was talking about, Pizza Pets, it's pretty fascinating how so it's a multiplayer game that interacts with each other, and what they do is to store the information of, the leaderboards, just like the real-time updates of the game. They actually had to create like a private server, a database that allowed this data to circulate into Flow, and through that, they circulated through their off-chain website, where you're able to connect your wallet and then feed your pets, give your pets these these funny little things that either you can make it die, evolve, and I find the concept very cool. And comparatively, this is similar to what we want to do. We want to equip creators to be able to create these programs on Bitcoin. As of now, we have these pre-made recursive templates, these pre-built ones that we have for mainly for demo purposes to show the power of Yuzo and what we can create. But our long-term vision is for creators and devs alike to be able to create these recursive templates and to be able to actually monetize them. So we enable a sort of a creator-driven economy, and it self-sustains itself, where similar to Alibaba and Amazon's business model, where it's a two-sided economy. They had to have, they had to have merchants, and then they had to have customers. And in order to attract customers, they needed to have good merchants providing exemplary services, and vice versa, where they needed customers that are willing to buy and be involved in the ecosystem that kind of incentivize these merchants to be able to provide such good products. So yeah, that's what we're trying to create on Bitcoin. Oh yeah, for also as well, for the audience listening, we're currently live at yuzo.xyz. So if you want to like follow, try out the demos throughout this podcast, I think it would be very cool experience for you guys as well.
Awesome. Yep, I've been playing around with it. It looks super clean. I love it. It's simple, it's easy. Didn't take me any time at all to figure it out. So you guys have been shipping super fast. It was,
Thank you.
none of this was here even a few months ago, and I've just been getting the updates, and so I can tell you guys are moving, which is awesome.
Thank you.
Last question, I guess, would be, what's been your experience at Bitcoin Startup Lab? I actually had Albert on not too long ago. I actually didn't post the episode, so I think he hates me
Really?
because his internet was like going in and out the whole time, and so every bit of his audio was cut out. And I tried to piece it back together for like months, and I was like, oh, I don't. If you see him, tell him I'm sorry. But I was just wondering how your experience has been with the Startup Lab. I've met a lot of amazing companies out of there, and so I'd love to just know, if you recommend it to others and what they can expect and what it's been like, being a part of it in like a bull market where there's a lot of excitement and probably a lot of, investors floating around looking for stuff.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, Albert is an amazing mentor, and like our slogan, build investment-ready startup in record time. Under 3 months, we're trying to do the prototyping, the research, try to ship out the product, get traction. It's a lot of work. I didn't sleep for the past 2 months, but I think it's worth it. I learned a lot, and so far, we have a pretty good prototype that's ready to ship in some minute, and feeling like we're making impact every day. We push the boundary of the ecosystem. Yeah. Before doing this, I didn't know what I can do. I didn't know the things we are doing right now were possible on ordinals. But after a few proof of concepts, like the ones that are live on our website is the bare minimum, just the modular proof of concepts. But when you combine it together, can scale bigger to become even bigger applications. Um, down this roadmap, we want to create tools that helps create bigger applications. So, for example, what if I tell you you can make like a multiplayer game like Pizza Pets in like a few weeks or even a few days within our consultation, or like we have like a package for you that you just need to import the assets and we can build like a game engine for you, something like that. I'm trying to simplify that process. At first, it's going to be manual in some parts, but trying to automate these things, the more we iterate over them, and eventually it will become like a app store, like or like Wix, Canva, this kind of building tools on Bitcoin.
Well, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I definitely got some ideas for some little games I would put on there someday, and I'm sure a ton of other people do. You're building at the right time. People are getting really excited about Bitcoin in particular right now. No one knows that you can do all this stuff yet, so you know, you're a little ahead of the curve, but honestly, that's kind of nice. It gives you some breathing room. You don't have a million people trying to compete with you at the same time,
That's
and
true.
there are honestly a lot of benefits to being this early and getting out ahead of this stuff.
Yeah, just I don't want to take too much time, but just
Go
to
ahead.
add
No.
on to like the Pizza Pets argument we're talking about, just to add on to that, Pizza Pets, I believe what they're doing is a mix of on-chain and off-chain content, because you cannot inscribe an entire game engine on Bitcoin directly without a crazy amount of cost. So that's a good example of how you can mix on-chain and off-chain content. Where the off-chain content is for interactivity and like a user experience, and the on-chain content is for the ownership, the proof of these transactions, these assets, and you have some sort of API that connects the both together to provide a seamless experience that involves transactions and these interactive gamified approach. I think a bottom line is Bitcoin is the best blockchain for holding the ownership of these assets. If the cost is a concern, then we can probably put some of those like more minor stuff off chain or on a side chain. NFT is essentially a proof of ownership. It's like your wallet. It connects to all the digital assets that you own, and it can be more than just an image, just an application. It can be a representation of yourself and be your identity, and in the long run that's going to present how it's like a upgrade of the entire Web2 network and social media.
I believe it. It's all going to be on chain soon, but in the meantime, we'll figure out the most important parts to stick there where no one can mess with.
Yeah.
One last thing.
Yeah,
I apologize. First
no,
and foremost, if it wasn't for Bitcoin Startup Labs, I wouldn't have met Chris. So I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity.
nice.
But yeah, it's a 12-week program, very intensive. I absolutely love it. I actually just graduated from uni a couple months ago, and I went straight into this program. And I've learned so much, like the value, the like what I've learned. They bring in guest speakers essentially every day, and they specialize on certain subjects. So we have like right now we're working on central listings and also tokenomics. But last week we were working on incorporation, and then the weeks prior, Albert, they brought in a bunch of experts, CEOs and founders from various, for example, Script came in, Domo came in as well, spoke to us about their technology, and it was pretty cool how we were able to learn firsthand from the industry leaders, and to be able to not only just hear from them but ask questions and interact. So I think this program is very invaluable. So to those wanting to build on Bitcoin, I highly suggest.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've been waiting for them to do something like that. Have just like a dedicated, hardcore, venture incubator for Bitcoin, and I'm super happy that he's doing it and it's
Absolutely.
straddling everything. I'm meeting guys from Stacks coming out of that program, guys been on ordinals, runes, everything, and I think it's awesome to just have all these guys together, meeting each other, brainstorming. I think that's hugely valuable. So I definitely appreciate everything he's doing for the ecosystem, and that's how I met you guys actually. Someone who I know who's in Bitcoin Startup Lab recommended it, so it's a good network. People look out for each other. It's a bunch of really good people generally. Everyone I've met out of there has been a great person who's really in it for the right reasons. They're legit. I think creating programs like that are a great way to keep the sketchy people out of it, because you got to show your face. People are going to know who you are. You have a network that has to trust you over time and gets to know you a little bit. So I think that's one of the best things we can do to just bring legitimacy to the ecosystem and keep some of the bad actors out. But in the meantime, we got fine folks like you guys willing to show your face, come on, talk about what you're doing. And I think that's just like such a huge step in the right direction. And I really love what you're doing. It's super interesting. It's going to be huge. And I think, there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming out of Bitcoin in the next 6-12 months. So you guys are getting out ahead of it at just the right time. But if there's anything you guys would like to share before we end the episode, any links to your personal Twitter, the website again, and I will add all the links in the bios.
So go to
Should we send it to you?
Yuzo.xyz.
Yeah. Just send me everything after. But you can just say it right now, just in case.
Yeah. So our Twitter is yuzo.xyz. So it's actually DOTXYZ. And if you go to yuzo.xyz, actual dot, it's our website. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
There
Thank
we
you so
go.
much, Mark.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you all for listening. We will be back with some more episodes, some pretty exciting guests coming up. So I am excited to enjoy the bull market with you fine folks a little bit more now. And yeah, in the meantime, thank you guys for coming on, and we'll be sure to do another episode once things have progressed a little bit.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.